I say what ho, this is Brian. Call me Dancing the Hoochie Coo Gardener, coming to you from Ramble on Towers Dungeon Studio in scenic Hespeler, Ontario. You're listening to Ramble on Radio, episode number 80. Ramble on Radio is the only dedicated podcast on this or any other known internets. Be sure to go to rambleonradio.com for all your Led Zeppelin news. Any links I mentioned during the show, you can subscribe to Ramble on Radio through iTunes. If you go to iTunes, leave a review. If you're on iTunes buying Debbie Gibson's Sleigh Ride, one of my particular favorites of the Christmas season, pop on over to the podcast side of things, leave a review. You don't have to download it from there. It just helps. It helps the bots, the iTunes bots, notice that I'm here doing this. You can listen on Spreaker. That's Spreaker, speaker with an R.com. And if you listen on Spreaker, if you have an account on Spreaker, even if you're bored and you feel like spending 5 minutes setting up an account for no other reason, go over to Spreaker, go to Ramble on Radio and follow me. 100 followers, and I can kind of push to get this into iHeartRadio, which is run by a Clear Channel, I think, it just puts it in front of thousands of people. And check out Ramble on Radio on YouTube. Follow Ramble on Radio on Facebook, Google+, and at Ramble on Blog on Twitter. And certainly Facebook and Twitter, I try, anyway, to respond to people. And I try. That's all I can say. Now, somebody did this week on Facebook, posted a note on who their favorite Japanese band that they liked. And I don't have it in front of me. I apologize for that. But I mentioned the Zeppelin tribute bands, and he had this was a band that he particularly liked. Anyway, the intro. You heard the intro. That is a new band called Sons of the Crown. Snippet of the song was called "Coming for You," and the lead singer of that band is James Dillon from Jason Bonham's Led Zeppelin Experience. Stick around. We got about a 20-minute interview with James coming up. We'll push it at the end of the show, but that's coming. James is a good talker, and he's we had a nice chat, and he's doing he has some pictures that he's selling. He does pencil drawings. He's done 2 pencil drawings now, one of Robert Plant, one of John Bonham. He's going to do 5 all total. Jimmy Page, John Paul Jones, and Jason, his boss, and kind of ties him into the whole it comes full circle in terms of him, the artist, by doing Jason. So that'll be probably the last one, I'm guessing, based on the way he was saying it. And but James has 2 pictures, Robert and John Bonham, for sale right now. This is December 11. If you this is Hangover Day plus 7 years, by the way, for a lot of us. Worth mentioning. We'll get to that in a few minutes. So 15th, 4 days from now, this is the Thursday, Friday, so Monday or Tuesday next week, on the 15th of December, if you get your order into him, he's guaranteeing to get it to you by Christmas, barring postal catastrophe. I mentioned Zed America only. He figured he could get it into Canada on time as well via UPS, but once you're crossing a border, you never know. So, the UPS plane could get shot out of the air, right? But yeah, he's offering that guarantee that he can get it going to you, get it on the overnight delivery before Christmas if you get it into him by the 15th. So now next week I'll be doing my annual "What to Get a Led Zeppelin Fan for Christmas" podcast, and I always run it too late. It's actually too late to usually go out and buy most of this stuff. But yeah, that's the way it goes. But that'll be high on the list. That'd be very high on the list. Be one or both of those pictures. So anyway, I talked to James, and that he gave me that little snippet of his new band, Sons of the Crown. Sons of the Crown. The song was called "Coming for You," and you'll hear it again on the outro of the interview. I outroed him on that as well. And then, okay, so I mentioned this, December 10th, 2007, 7 years ago, and this very yesterday, um, was the O2 show, Led Zeppelin at the O2, what's now known as the Celebration Day show, although we didn't call it that then. That's only the last couple of years we've been calling it that. But yes, that show happened 7 years ago today. I was there. I imagine I've told the story here, but I was at a dinner party last Saturday, and that came up. Somebody mentioned, we people I didn't even know were at the table. You went to Zeppelin, didn't you? Yeah. Oh man. Oh, wow. How was that? So so it was a great show. It actually got me. I do this podcast now, and I run my blog because of that show. There's a direct line can be drawn from that show to this blog. I'm sure Robert would have. Now I have two reasons not to have done the show, but yeah, I mean, I was a Led Zeppelin fan. I was a fanatical Led Zeppelin fan in high school, and I. In Page and Plant era, I went and seen them and quite got into them. But you fall in and out of things, and you forget about it. You haven't listened to it in a while. When they remastered the CDs, I got to back to them for a while. When How the West Was Won came out, I kind of was listening to them for a while. But it comes and it goes. It falls up, it falls backwards sometimes, And then I got the tickets to the show. And that was about as far as that would go. I've not looked back. I've been more fanatically Led Zeppelin, more so than since high school, probably. And that's just, so this, and yeah, I started the blog because I was talking about the show all the time, and you could see my wife and kids going, Christ, he's talking about the concert again. So I started writing about it instead. And that directly led to this. So from there to here is a straight line. So we mark that show today. And a good one it was, is all I would tell you. Now, speaking of reunions, how would you like to see this show? Led Zeppelin with Ann Wilson instead of Robert Plant. This came up this week. I guess Ann Wilson said in an interview, basically said, I didn't read the interview. I didn't read the whole thing. I just grabbed the headline. But I'm guessing she was specifically asked, would you do that? They talked about doing it. And she said, yes, I would do that. But there's no offer on the table as far as I can gather from it. It was just her saying, yeah, I would do that. I'd go out with Jimmy and John Paul Jones and we'd call it Led Zeppelin. Sure, why not? Yeah, why wouldn't you if you're Ann Wilson? It's music you love. It's a band you grew up listening to. It's a notch on the microphone stand. Very few people get so, but it's it's not going to happen. It's not that's not there. But it's an interesting idea, and I talked when they were Miles Kennedy and Steven Tyler and stuff was coming in. I talked at that time about having a female singer in, and I've talked a number of times about I think Jimmy and John Paul Jones should go out together as a kind of honoring Led Zeppelin type of concert. I have a couple of singers, and one of them should be a female singer. And Ann Wilson's a good choice. She's not a Led Zeppelin. She's not a Robert Plant clone. She's got her own style, but she can certainly do the Robert Plant parts, and that's that would make it an interesting. That would give it some credibility it might not otherwise have if you went out and got somebody who's just looks and sounds like Robert Plant, Okay, we have a couple of magazine stuff coming up. Actually, three magazines. I tell you what, I'm going to start with, if I can find it. Where did I put my book? There it is. I can see the back cover, the Crybaby Wawa cover. Guitar World has Jimmy on the cover. And an interview inside with... Is it Brad Talinsky does this interview? This is a question I had not thought of. You have Brad Talinsky and some pictures by Ross Halfin, of course. The old Jimmy holding his guitar, not playing his guitar. Shots. And Yeah, at least in that one he's got it strapped on, right? There you go. If you're on YouTube, you can see the pictures. Interview with Brad Talinsky, which is interesting because he told Chuck Klosterman this past, well, in an interview that just came out a couple of days ago, that he used to like Brad Talinsky. Then he read that book, and it was a bit of a joke. Brad. But this seems to have been done in the spring, during the sessions, summer, during the listening sessions in London for Houses of the Holy and Led Zeppelin 4. Our pal Dave Lewis was at that. So it's a nice interview there. It talks about a lot of stuff. It talks mostly, about the music. Alternately, Gentleman's Quarterly, GQ, has named Jimmy Page one of their Men of the Year. I don't believe it's Man of the Year, I believe it's Men of the Year, and Jimmy Page is one of them. And as such, he gets a cover and an interview with Chuck Klosterman. Chuck Klosterman is a phenomenal music writer, has a number of books, kind of does culture in music, doesn't do just straight up music, it talks about the cultural side of things, how it affects culture. Very good writer, very interesting writer. And he had 2 days with Jimmy, and the ensuing article is causing some gnashing of teeth in the We Love Jimmy fan sites. He goes at him a bit. I don't say goes at him a bit, but he asks some questions that Jimmy's obviously uncomfortable with, and he pushes on the point a bit. He talks about the drug, about his heroin use. He doesn't even say drugs, doesn't even say partying and stuff. He talks specifically about his heroin use in the late 70s, to which Jimmy says it's overstated, blah, blah, blah. He won't talk about it, really. I'm not going to answer that. Which is... And there's a lot of people saying, oh, this guy couldn't do an interview. He's one of the best writers in music out there. And these people are going, he doesn't know his stuff, man. This asshole can't do an interview to save his life. Well, actually, he did quite a good interview. And, hey, 2 days of interview. So you ask every question under the sun and then some, right? You poke and prod and see if you get something interesting that nobody else is getting. Because you can ask Jimmy Page about the music all day and twice on Sunday. And if I had a chance to interview him next week, I'd probably do the same. I'd probably ask him more about the music than anything. And if you get 45 minutes with him, then that's what you're going to do. But you're also going to get the boilerplate answers. And most of this stuff has been asked and answered 100 times. Klosterman kind of dug in and got some other stuff. And one of the things he talks about is how Jimmy was supposedly quite out of it through the outdoor sessions. And Jimmy says, hey, look at the album. I'm listed as the producer. You can't be the producer and never be there. You can't be the producer and be out of it. And he says that, if Robert and John Paul Jones did as much as they say, as is reported that they did, they would have asked for producer credit. Which I guess, I don't know. You've lived with this guy for 10 years. He's always been the producer. And now he's got a problem. Lots of bands do, yeah. Bands split up over that sort of thing because he's getting the credit and they're whatever. But if you treat him as your friend, then do you necessarily go after the credits, or do you say, well, I'm gonna let this one slide because I don't want to point out that he's I can see both sides. I can see his argument that if that was the case, then why did I get that credit? I could also see the other side of things. I could see John Paul Jones saying, he's been my close associate and friend for 10 years, and I'm just not going to push this point. I'm not going to. I'm not going to try and push him over the ledge here or something. He's got a problem, and I'd rather him solve the problem than me just grab credit where I don't need it. So you can see both ends of that. Now I have to interview John Paul Jones to ask him that question. I noticed Dave Lewis said in the Type But Loose that he had a file called Questions to Ask Jimmy if I ever get the chance. I need to start those files just in case. And there's one for the Questions to Ask John Paul Jones. file. But anyway, the Klosterman interview is quite good, actually, and in its entirety, it seems online, and I will put it up. I've kind of been bogged down in some other stuff this week, so I wanted to get a couple of links up, and I didn't. But I would try and get that done sometime in the next few days. But yeah, it's quite. I think it's a very good interview, but I like Chuck Klosterman. And I think it's fair game to prod and poke a bit at guys that you're interviewing. And it's also fair game for Jimmy to say, I'm not answering that question. Especially when it's a question that it's relevant to the music too. That his drug use at that time was relevant to the music. What's In Through the Outdoor like if Jimmy's getting up with John Paul Jones and Robert? If he's got a writing credit on every song, then what's In Through the Outdoor like compared to what it is? It's a relevant question. But anyway, what more interesting to me was the people who actually seemed upset at the interview. Upset that how dare they ask Jimmy these questions? What kind of moron would ask Jimmy these questions? Well, a guy with a job to do and a guy who's good at his job. And if he doesn't get the answers, he doesn't get the answers. But you got to poke and prod a little. It's like whenever there's interviews and with either Robert or Jimmy or John Paul Jones, people ask about a Led Zeppelin reunion, and people get on social media and say, "Oh, okay, why would this moron even ask that question? It's clear Jimmy doesn't like it being asked." Well, here's two things. I don't care what Jimmy likes being asked. He's a public figure who's doing an interview, and you don't get to choose the questions. That's as far as it goes. You get to choose who you will interview and who you won't, and how you end up looking as a public figure may be reflected by that choices. That's one. But two, you don't get to choose the questions. And if you didn't, if I had an interview with Jimmy Page tomorrow, and I don't ask him any talk with Robert about a reunion, anything coming up along those lines, and the next day they announce a reunion, I'm the asshole I'm the stupid moron who never asked them the question when I had the chance. That's why you ask the question. And for me, it wouldn't be such a big deal. Well, I could probably make a lot of hay out of the fact that I didn't. You know what I mean? I could go online and write, I could spend a week writing stuff, self-deprecating stuff, and make a lot of hay out of the fact that I never asked that question. Much in the same way I like to make hay out of the fact, hopefully amusingly, that nobody answers my emails when I ask for interviews. But if you have a boss, you have an editor, now you're standing in front of your bosses explaining why you never asked that obvious question when there was a major story to be told and you could have had it a day early. So, the reason they ask the question is because they're deathly afraid that if they don't ask the question, that the answer will be yes. So I have no problems with people asking that question. They gotta ask it. It's too obvious a question not to ask. And the fact that they get upset at asking instead of just saying no, it really quite simply you could say no, nothing happened. No reunion plans. Will you ever play again with that? Who knows? I would say no, but who knows? That's all they have to say. It's done and out of the way in 10 seconds, and there you go. Or you could walk in the room, say, even before he turns on the tape, listen, before you even ask, the answer is no. Before you even turn on the tape, listen, here's the answer. I know you're going to ask the question, here's the answer. Okay, thanks. I won't bother you asking it. So the same thing applies. It's fair game questions. And it's a good interview. Actually, it's probably... Remember what did I complain about last week? That Jimmy just boilerplate answers? Boilerplate questions and boilerplate answers, and you might as well read an interview he did 6 months ago as an interview he did yesterday, because they're the same thing. You're getting the same answers to the same questions. This isn't the same answers, the same way. He got a different response from him. He poked and prodded a bit and got him to say some different stuff, and got some interesting responses out of it. And and that's kind of his job, not to just be the same as every other guy. So good on him. Inversely, maybe that's not the word. Robert is on the cover of Relix magazine. Never heard of it before myself, but he's on the cover, and you can get a free edition of this. Now they have a sample of the piece they did on him online, but you can get a free edition if you're in the U.S. I believe it's only in the U.S. and sample the internet. What you have to do is subscribe, and you have to, once you subscribe to it. But I think you can cancel after. You know what I mean? It's you get one free, and you're basically signed up to get the next year, but you can cancel at any time. That sort of thing. So they will send you the free magazine, RELIX, Relix, it's called. And it's what I said last week about Robert is he just kind of starts waxing, pontificating, philosophizing, just says nonsense. Yeah, so here's something he said. The question was on, in terms of the music being different, the music, what he's doing now is similar to what he was doing all those years ago. The 66-year-old plant insists that he's been on the same mission all along. Quote, here we go, folks. I think so, starting from when I was about 15. It's the flexing of public perception and people buying into the idea that's fluctuated. In the beginning, there was nobody there. Just an empty room, maybe 3 people. And in 1965, it was free to get in. And then through time, the amazing pinnacles of exchange with energy, which includes absurdities and cherry bombs and social disease and penicillin immunity and stress and some joy and freedom and captures and prisons, all those things spin around and we end up here in this fancy dressing room. Not bad, all things considered. What? Huh? He's really just talking, right? And that's what his interviews are like nowadays. And I said last week, I've kind of stopped reading these interviews because you have to read that 3 times. I have no idea what he's really saying. I don't think he has an idea what he's saying. He just talks so long. Yeah, it's the same. Now it's bigger now than then. That's, but he's just blows through the stuff like I said, like me when I'm drunk or when I'm recording the podcast. Which is not always the same thing, I promise. It's not always the same thing. So there's Robert. And that's why, I just think, and yeah, his interviews are like that lately. And he really says nothing. And I think it's the same product as the Jimmy issue that he just keeps getting asked more or less the same questions over and over. And he's trying to find a different way to answer it. Whereas Jimmy's got boilerplate answers down, Robert's just bored of that, and he just goes off and people just roll the tape recorder and think this is great. Let's face it, if you got words to write, pages to fill, that's 150 words. You think that's what? I should check. I should test that. I think I can. I think I can go. 91. Yeah, we got a few more here, so let's go. So 100 words, not 150. How's that? That's, there's 100 words written. Okay, I need 1,000 words for this piece. Well, there's 10% of it. Done. Just, not saying anything, but it does give you the sense of Robert Plant, I think, which is fair enough. For, even if you're doing the interview, that's perspective. That's what you're trying to do. So, yeah. Anyway, so let's get to the interview. James Dillon. No, I did not poke and prod on his drug use in 1979. But yeah. I should warn you. This is done over Skype, and there's some. What do you call it? There's some skipping and stopping, but at the end of the day, you can hear what he says. But there's these blah 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 blah, and then he goes on to say it. it kind of sticks for a minute, but then it gets said. And each and every time, there was a couple of times when I thought to say, hold on a sec, because we got a problem here. Let's let it clean up. And as soon as I started to say that, or as soon as I was about to say it, it cleared up. And he was saying, it's almost like the whole thing that he said came through, which meant there was some pausing back and forth. But it's a Skype interview. It is what it is, but it covers a lot of points. We'll get to those after. Here's the interview. Here's James Dillon, lead singer from Jason Bonham's Led Zeppelin experience, talking to Ramble on Radio. Sitting here with James Dillon, the lead singer for Jason Bonham's Led Zeppelin experience, and also an artist of some significance. And we're going to talk about that first. James, how are you?
Good. Doing great, Brian. Thanks.
Good. I want to talk about your pictures first. You got John Bonham. You just finished, right?
That's correct.
Oh, he's got one.
Just so we know what we're talking about here.
Beautiful. And that is, for the people who looking at that on the screen, that is a pencil drawing, not a picture, not a photograph. It's astounding.
And this is the second of a series. There will be 5 altogether. Here's the first one.
Yeah, and that's Robert, and that's a famous picture from Kazar Stadium in San Francisco. That one, right?
That's correct.
Yeah. So what's the process? How do you?
The way I go about it, I'm also a painter, and each project that I do, I approach differently. This particular one, I wanted to keep as faithful to the original photographs as I could. What I end up doing with these is, if you can imagine, I approach each area of the drawing like I'll work in a section only that big. And right. There's a couple reasons for this. The first reason being that if I'm working up in the corner and I don't want to smudge anything, it's nice to have a little box that covers up everything else so my hand isn't dragging across the image. So that's the first reason I do that, but it also allows me to look carefully at what is actually happening in a very small section. So I tend to start with the face because I believe that that's the most important element to capture. When you get a true likeness, you can capture it, like in this particular one, if you take a close look at the eyes, yeah. That was really important to me. And I actually started this drawing once and got all the way around this area and then threw it all away. So starting with the face is a very important part of this, and trying to capture that correctly.
Yeah, I guess.
Something that's interesting about this particular one, Brian, is that I'm very careful with the drawings. When I'm done with them, I put them on top of a bookshelf. And one of the things about drawing these pictures is that they have really dark areas in them. And the best way to get a very dark area for a drawing is to have a rigid surface to draw upon and to have a really good, like an 8B pencil or something along those lines, so you can get the darkest values possible. And just as I was coming down the home stretch, I asked Avril to take a video of the process of drawing in one of these squares. And I placed the drawings up top the bookshelves, as I always do, and it was taped down to a piece of glass. Now, up on top of my bookshelf, there's also a row of ivy, and it doesn't allow it to lay perfectly flat. Well, not even flat enough to keep it in one place. I was sitting in the next room, and I heard the shatter of glass.
Oh, no.
Around the corner, and there was the drawing in a heap of glass, if you can imagine.
Just panicking, right?
My stomach just fell. I was just so sure that there was no salvage for this glass on the floor. And as I started to vacuum away everything, I looked at the drawing, and it appeared completely unscathed. So,
beautiful.
Lucked out with that.
Beautiful. Now, with the Robert, you sold the original for $2,000. Is that right?
The original didn't sell.
No?
And it was only there for a few days, as you can remember. Avril said, do not sell them independent of one another.
Okay. That's okay. So that's off the table now. You're not selling them individually.
that reason.
We're
Yeah. So the reason for taking it down was so that if one completed, someone wanted the entire collection, it would be available.
Oh, nice.
So Avril is running the show here. If you get my meaning.
He's a business person. So you have 5
Yes.
you're going to do, presumably Jimmy and John Paul Jones. Who's the 5th?
Correct.
Or what's the 5th going to be?
Well, the 5th is the other that has a Grammy for Led Zeppelin.
So Jason, yeah.
That would be my boss, of course. And I'm also going to capture him with Led Zeppelin. The album that they got the Grammy for was Celebration Day from the O2. So that seems an appropriate environment to draw Jason in.
Yeah.
And the plan is that these will all go very well together, and that the one that I'm doing of Jason will be different. And I'm not going to go into detail about what is unique about that particular drawing, but I will tell you that is meant to be part of this collection, and altogether they're to be displayed that way.
Oh, excellent. Okay. I didn't know about the 5th Jason one before. I somewhere in my mind I thought you were only doing 4, so that's nice.
A lot of people thought that, yeah.
Yeah. I thought I had read it, but yeah, I didn't know that.
I understand that. I got a comment the other day. Someone said, that they hoped they hadn't offended me by implying that there were only 4 drawings after I explained that there were 5.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing about that comment is that it's not offending at all. Everyone knows and everyone understands very well that there were 4 people who wrote the songs we all love so much.
Yeah.
So Jason Bonham himself is the first to say that. He says he thinks of Led Zeppelin as his father, Jimmy, John, Paul, and Robert, of course.
Right.
So it's not offending at all. It's I think that the fact that I would draw Jason is very relevant to my own personal Led Zeppelin experience. So it kind of ties the whole thing together as to the artist and my personal journey, of course.
Yeah, for sure. It makes sense to do it, but I didn't realize you were. All right, and then you guys looks like you got some dates set for March, or going to be.
Correct.
Yeah.
Are they posted yet? I don't even know.
I haven't seen anything. That's what I had heard is March you guys were going out.
Yes, that's right. We do plan to do a couple of months there where we're going to travel around North America again. So that's the plan. Right. And I don't actually have the dates yet, like which venues we'll be at, but it will probably be similar to some of the other tours that we've been on, maybe starting down in Florida again, as we have in the past.
That's the only place to go in March.
Right on.
And there was talk of you guys doing some recording together, getting into the studio.
Yes. So that's our other project. We're doing some work together. We've actually got some songs that we've been assembling, and we're using this downtime right now to get our collection of songs up to enough that we can record an album and put that out for the people that are fans of the bands.
Yeah, and you actually the last time I interviewed you, you mentioned that you guys have been doing some writing. This has actually been ongoing for a couple of years, hasn't it?
Correct. Most of the stuff that we've been able to do has been, of course, in sound check. We're taking advantage of these things. But as you know, Jason has been very busy, and actually getting a chance to edit and assemble and all the fun stuff that goes on, after you've actually got a raw idea, has been left to, we still have to put it all together. You've probably heard of some of the different projects Jason's been working on, and that's kept him very busy.
And he had talked actually.
He said, "Oh, this is he's building a garage at the moment. He's using this opportunity to get stuff done around the house."
Well, actually, I noticed he bought a Charger SRT, and he had posted that he's also bought a Hellcat. I work at the plant that builds those cars.
Oh, I didn't do that.
Yeah, that's what I do for a living. I drove his car before he did, probably.
Right
so
on. I did know that you worked for them. I wasn't sure exactly what you did for them, but
Yeah.
I was aware that you worked for those guys.
Yeah, so
Good cars, by the way.
I aimed his headlights. Yeah, they're nice cars. I like them. Yeah, he a couple of years ago, or a year or so ago, he had talked about a different album he was going to record, wasn't he? He was going to get Slash in to do a song, and he was going to have some guest
I didn't
people.
Hear this.
You
know more about my band than I do.
I guess. Yeah, I would say about a year ago, like when I seen you guys last, was it last January, February? He was talking about that at the time in the media. Yeah. But yeah, anyway,
That's
you don't know,
right,
Yeah, nothing. You have no response to that. Okay.
I didn't know about it, so.
So there you go.
You should ask Jason that question.
Yeah, well,
you know,
do you know I have never talked to him?
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Never, and I mean, I was
know the guy, so I can hook you
up. I was at sound check one day, right? I was 10 feet away from him, not even a hello. Yeah, not nothing.
Say hi to him. He's a very friendly guy.
He actually came in from the back and went out the back, and I was out front.
That's probably what it all comes down to.
Yeah. So yeah, I've never had the chance to even say hello to him.
We'll work that out.
All right, that sounds good. And okay, and you have another band on the cooker called Sons of the Crown, right?
Yes, that's right. And this is just friends, and we started to put together some music. And I'll share a little bit of a snippet that you can maybe put at the end of the show or something that gives you a little bit of an idea of what we're working on. And we're not actually trying to cater to anything. We're just writing music and having fun doing it. So
hey, Led Zeppelin played what they want to do, right? So
yeah, it's a great outlet for all of us. You know, I've known the guy that I write with. His name is Rob. I've known him for quite some time and really respected him as a musician. And we got together one night, and things just really started happening fast, and we decided we're going to write an album. So that's what this is all about. And down the road, we hope to take it out and show it around a little bit, too.
Nice. So you're going to have something for sale at some point?
Yeah, I think so. That's the idea. So got a lot of stuff coming musically, both from Jason Bonham's band and Sons of the Crown.
Right, good. Very nice. Yeah, and I'll... the snippet, you send me the snippet, and I'll definitely either run it, probably the beginning of the show I'll run it, and maybe at the end too. But I'm always looking for I'm always looking for an intro, so it's
good.
The perfect.
We can have Sons of the Crown as your intro music.
Yes, perfect. And okay, so I wanted to go back to the pictures actually. The last one took you a long time to do. You were planning on being done by now, right?
Yes, I had imagined that I would take about a month to do each of these.
It's been closer to a year, hasn't it?
What happens, though, is you get, as you know, I have a day job.
Yeah.
And I work for a political consultant, and that doesn't leave a whole lot of extra time. And, of course, my family, and drawing is always, unfortunately, the very last thing to do. I'm passionate about it, but it does fall to the bottom of the list. So it does take a little bit of time to do these drawings, and actually committing to sitting down after a long day sometimes is not the first thing on the list.
Yeah.
And so I would imagine that these next two will be done next week, but
that's what you hope. I know exactly what you mean. You know, when I'm done here, I'm going to glue the neck on a mandolin or a ukulele that I'm building. I made it for my daughter for last Christmas. I'm almost done it now.
Oh, you're breaking up a little bit, Brian.
Yeah, you've been breaking up too, but I'm making a ukulele for my daughter. And
wow.
I started this last year for her Christmas present, and I'm almost done it now. So I'm a year behind schedule on it.
Wow, yeah. But I didn't know you worked in wood. That's fascinating.
Yeah, I do some guitar repair, and
do we get to take a little look or no?
It's upstairs. No, I wish I could.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe you could put in a little, one of those little pictures right over here of the ukulele as we're talking.
I could, yeah. I'll do something like that. I'll definitely post a picture on Facebook.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Excellent, Brian.
Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, I know what you mean. I'm a year behind schedule on that thing, so. I had one other question, I think. Okay, where can you get the pictures?
Go to James Dillon Official, and that's JamesDylan official.com. And that is the only place to get the drawings at this point. Maybe in the future, as the other drawings are completed, I'll have other ways you can get the drawings. But for right now, that's the only way to do it. And I'm taking orders for Christmas up until the 15th. The reason only until the 15th is because they come to me first, and then after I sign them, they go out the door. It's a two-step process, and I don't want anybody to not get them for the holidays. So until the 15th, you're guaranteed. There's still potential that I could get them to you after the 15th, but I want to be safe with that, of course.
Yeah, obviously, yeah. And that would probably be United States only, right?
That's a good question. I didn't even consider the fact that some of these might be Canadian. I could probably still do it as long as it's in by the 15th, and I could probably FedEx them overnight to Canada. Of
course, yeah. Yeah, the FedEx would. I was thinking, because sometimes this stuff gets caught up in customs, you know?
Yeah.
But no, FedEx it shouldn't,
that's exactly right. For that reason, it's kind of hard to be absolutely sure it's going to be there. Yeah. But I will do my best to get it to everybody.
Okay, so the 15th, then I'm not sure what day it is. What's it today, about the 9th?
8th? Let's check here. I thought it was the 8th, but it could be the 9th. No, December 8th.
Okay, so it'll be...
John Lennon, right? John Lennon
That's right. John Lennon, 34 years ago. 34 years?
Day for everybody.
Wow, yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, and it was a week after Led Zeppelin split, too.
Right. Yeah, wow. So, very big time in history.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And I just wanted to go over this. The pictures are $95 for a 9x13, $65 by a 6.5 by 10. They're all signed. And those are photographic paper and
Correct.
Good prints and all that, right?
It's actually, these are archive quality prints. So it isn't photographic paper. It's very, very high quality art style paper.
Okay.
So when you get this stuff, it's very much the stuff you would draw on, and looks remarkably like the original. So I wanted to make sure that these things really showed off the detail of this. So I went to a company that is very reputable for recreating artwork.
Good. Okay, that's all I got. Anything else you want to add?
Merry Christmas, everyone, and have a happy New Year. And we'll see you guys all sometime around March.
Sounds good. I will try my best to see you in March. And Merry Christmas to you and Averell and the kids.
To you too, Brian. Thanks for having me on the show.
All right. We'll see you, James.
Take care.
Bye. And we're back. That wasn't so painful, was it? It wasn't so long away. So that was James Dillon. The song, the outro song again was Sons of the Crown, his new band, Coming For You. And the intro was Babe, I'm Gonna Leave You. That was James Dillon singing with Jason Bonham's Led Zeppelin Experience. Babe, I'm Gonna Leave You. He's a hell of a singer, folks. I gotta tell you that. He doesn't sound like Robert, but he hits all the notes. And he has a fair chunk of his kind of inflection. His singing style is infused within James as he gets them right without being imitative, and he's exceptional. I have sat there listening to those guys, been truly blown away by how good he is. And I point out again, the artwork is phenomenal. If you haven't seen it, I do have some pictures up. I got a video of him drawing the James Dillon one, kind of a time caption video that I'm going to put on the page in the next day or two. That for sure gets up by the end of the weekend. Go. You got the James Dillon's his website. Just Google his website. Sorry, off the top of my head, I don't have it. And I know we talked about it in the interview. I should have made a quick note of that. But You can go order it. It's $95 for the larger one, $65 I think for the smaller print, and they are truly phenomenal. They look like photographs, and they're not. And I would imagine once you get it, you're sitting looking. If you look at it closely, you would okay, that's really is a pencil drawing. But from 5 feet away, it wouldn't look like a pencil drawing. It's magical, and he's doing 5. You can get the first 2 now. Don't buy them all at once. Buy them one at a time. Save yourself some. Having to come up with $500 right off the top. And if you have a Led Zeppelin fan, again, by the 15th of December, 4 days from now, get your order in. He's guaranteeing to get it to you by Christmas. Get it out the door in time for you. And can't recommend it enough. I'll go over the fine points. Jason Bonham's Led Zeppelin experience is going out in March. No dates yet. I don't know. I did look. I was searching around and looking. Nothing has turned up yet. I will keep an eye on that, but nothing as of yet. No dates, no cities. Hopefully, right near me, and I can get out and see him and meet Jason. Finally, get to meet one of the actual guys. That would be very, very cool. But that'd be cool. But if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen too. We'll live with that. I'm not going to get touchy about it. Let's put it that way. And they are still talking about recording now. I talked to James, I think 2 years ago on this very program, and they talked about doing some writing and possibly recording then. So this is a couple of years later, but they're still talking about certain stuff, so it'd be nice. It'd be cool to have an album of actual. It'd be nice to see them going out with their own material as well and doing kind of a 50-50 show. So instead of being more Led Zeppelin tribute band, they'd be their own band, and then have 50% of the set, maybe the first half of the set is their stuff, the second half is the Zeppelin stuff. That'd be nice for them, and it'd be a nice show. It'd be nice to see them moving beyond what they're doing currently, I guess is the point. Pointed out, coming for you, that's Sons of the Crown, the new band. We'll keep you posted on when I hear anything about them actually releasing any material. 2.5 pictures done. Yes, upcoming pictures are John Paul Jones, Jimmy Page, and Jason. And if you read that interview the way I did, Jason will be the last one. And something slightly different. He'll use color pencils or something like that. I don't know. I can't imagine what he would do at pencil drawing, but I'm not an artist, so I don't. He's clearly got a plan there. So that's it, folks. That's a full wrap tonight. I hope you enjoyed. It was great having James Dillon on. Thank you to James for coming on the show. Next week is going to be my Christmas, what to buy for Christmas. And then it's probably, barring something happening, it's probably going to be 2 weeks of no podcast, just because I put them out on a Thursday, and that becomes, maybe I'll do a New Year's Day one, but it'll be Christmas Day, New Year's Day. So I've been thinking different things about it, and I gotta, maybe, but I was actually, no, I'll not say anything, but it's not happening, so I'm not gonna try to poke and prod the person I was emailing about possibility on this, but so I'm not thinking at this stage anything happens for Christmas, unless something special drops in my lap that I can turn into something without knocking myself out over the holidays. It would be a special treat, an interview maybe pops along that I got some feeders out, but no responses. But maybe something comes and we can turn it into a Christmas Day special. Outside of that, I'm thinking next week, and then it's 1 off, maybe 2 off, and start fresh in 2015. But we'll talk to you next week. That'll be the before Christmas. What should you buy your Led Zeppelin fan special? That's it for this week. Ramble on Radio, episode number 80. Check rambleonradio.com for notes on this week's podcast, for Led Zeppelin news, reviews, and any links mentioned in today's podcast. Follow Ramble on Radio on Facebook, on Google+, and at Ramble on Blog on Twitter. You can subscribe to Ramble on Radio through iTunes. And if you go to iTunes, if you're at iTunes, if you're being in iTunes, if you feel inclined to open iTunes, leave a review. Stop over and leave a review. You can listen to it or download it on Spreaker, Spreaker, and be sure to follow me, Ramble on Radio, on Spreaker. Check it out at Ramble on Radio on YouTube. I'm also on Google+, and that's it. Thanks for listening. Ramble on Radio, episode number 80. Keep it coolin', babies.